Hi there. Today I want to talk about a fabulous creation, a book by David Hepworth. Now, David Hepworth was a writer on several magazines, music magazines, including The Word and Smash Hits. He also was a presenter on the Whistle Test and for the BBC at Live Aid. And he currently does a podcast on a very, very regular basis together with Mark Ellen, another magazine writer, which is called Word in Your Ear or Word in Your Attic during lockdown. I'll put a link to that, and he has some terrific guests. It's all about popular music, and I watch it on a regular basis, and it's very, very entertaining. So the book is about the album, the LP, and he does have a distinction between what an album and an LP is. It goes over the history of the recording from singles, which had a song or piece of music on each side, and then sometime in the late 40s, RCA and Columbia Records in America found a way of putting more tracks on a side, and the LP was born. And in the book, he makes the argument that the album, really, as he calls it, had a reign from 1967 to 1982. And prior to 67, most LPs were a couple of hits and a lot of filler, to quote Phil Spector. They were kind of throwaway. People bought them, but there wasn't a great deal of thought or artistic merit put into them on the whole. And that all changed when the Beatles, who had done several LPs prior to that, and many of them, Hard Day's Night, for example, was all original work, put together a complete show, a standalone musical experience where the songs had kind of a link or a theme, and they weren't meant to produce hit singles. And this, of course, was Sgt. Pepper, which came out in 1967. And David describes how, as a young lad, he spotted the cover in a shop, his record shop. He didn't have any money on him. He didn't have enough to buy it. So he went home on the bus, borrowed the requisite funds from his father with the promise that he would pay it back by doing housework and jobs around the garden, and got the bus back, hoping that he'd get there before the shop closed, and bought his copy of Sgt. Pepper and treasured it. Now, my own experience with Sgt. Pepper was rather strange, because I was living in a flat at the time, and I bought the album. And I had already bought a record player, but as I bought the album, as I got it home, for some reason the record player packed up. It was a very cheap, I'd say, second-hand one. So I spent quite a while literally reading Sgt. Pepper, and I think it was the first album to have all the lyrics printed on it. So I read all the lyrics, while all the time wondering what they sounded like, and read all the information on it, who the engineer was, etc., etc., numerous times. And I also studied the cover to see if I could identify all the figures on it. I got a couple of them. This before the internet, obviously, and now that wasn't unique, because that was something you did even if you could play the record, which I couldn't. You read it, you studied the cover, you looked at the photograph, and it was an object in itself. He then, in the book, really the structure of the book is year by year from 67 to 82, and he discusses what he considers the significant albums of the time, and he puts them in a context of news, current events that were happening surrounding that album release. And some very significant albums, for example, Pink Floyd's, Donna Summer, discusses all them in details. He's a terrific writer, and he's got a lot of knowledge of the scene, and he's also a fan, which always helps. He's not cynical about it. And one of the things he talks about as a young guy was carrying an album ostentatiously with the photograph out, so people could see it, and this marked you out from which tribe you were involved with. And a lot of people made friends this way, and in fact in the book it mentions how Brian Jones and Mick Jagger, I think it was, linked up because one was carrying an album, the other one went up and talked to him about it. So you know, going to parties and taking albums for people to play, and people would look forward to you bringing an album round and you could hear it. Certainly with my friends, we did that. You know, one of them had bought a new album, you'd come and listen to it all. So, terrific book. He has written numerous other books on pop music, and I'll be reviewing them as well. But I thought I'd start with this one because it really has a lot of relevance for most of us who bought our music during that time. Obviously 82 ushered in other forms of packaging music, which up till today now where you can just download it. And one of the points David makes about this is that the album was designed with a running order. You know, the Beatles and George Martin agonized over the sequence of the tracks on their albums. And that's something that gets lost when you just download music kind of ad hoc and play them in the order that you select. So lot in the book to think about.